I want to take you through the settings on a BC roaster from the 600 up, where they have both the hot air temperature or environmental temperature and the bean temperature. Every once in a while somebody messes up the Omron controls, which is disappointing because nobody should try to change them without full knowledge of how to adjust it. There's a couple of things that we've shown you that you can do that are real simple. One is if you want to set the maximum setting to something different than 500, it's just the simple control of these buttons, these three buttons right here. The button in the center moves the active button from the point button to the single, to the tens, to the fives. So if you click one down, that now becomes 400, which generally wouldn't want to max out at 400. The bean temperature is the one that actually controls the machine. So if you were to set it at 400, which I wouldn't recommend doing, the gas would kick off at 400. With that said, let me switch this back. We like to keep ours at 500 because we're artisan roasters. Everything we do by hand. Never would you allow a roast to go to 500. That's what we give it on, between 450 and 500 we give on our heat tests. 500 on everything from a 600 up. 450, 475 on a 300. But that's one of the few things that if you want to change, you can, but really if you're going to be the artist, you don't even need to concern yourself with that. Another setting that we've mentioned in times past is sometimes people change areas and they want to switch it from Fahrenheit to Celsius. You click on this first button on the control, and then the second button, which is the mode button, and that brings it to the D-U, and you got the F setting. Flip it down, it now becomes Celsius, and flip back on this action button here, and now your meter is reading Celsius on this side and Fahrenheit on that, which generally you don't want to do. Have conflicting ones, so I'm going to switch it back. But I'm going to go through the sequence of what all the settings are, so in case something ever happens and some unauthorized person plays around with your machine, which I hope never happens, you can bring it back to its proper usage. First of all, let me tell you what some of the button controls are, so you'll understand that, and you can find all this in the Omron manual. Over here you can see the temperature unit. It's in Fahrenheit. When switched to Celsius, it will say C. The display, the number one display is up here, which displays the actual current temperature. Below that is the number 2 display, which is your maximum setting. Down here you've got buttons. You've got what's called the level key, the first button. You have the mode key. Then you have the in this one you have 3 buttons to control changing the number 2 display temperature. As I mentioned before, this one activates the active numeral, whether it be point, whether it be ones or tens or 500, and then you use the up and down switch to switch that, the active one. You can also not even use the control for each numeral. You can just do the up and down button. It takes a little longer, obviously, but you can do that as well. Okay, we're going to just go through the menu settings so you can see. First, I'm going to press the level key, hold it for 3 or 4 seconds, and it will flash into this screen. I'm just going to go down through a series of screens to show you. This is actually showing us what type of temperature probe is used, which in this case is a 2-wired K-type thermocouple, which is set to 6. If you were to change it to something else, you would adjust the number up or down according to the manual, which you don't ever need to do that unless you're updating or changing the thermocouples. So I'm just going to go through the sequence pressing the level button, and the next screen is this one. And then if you press it again, it goes right back to those. So you have two menus by pressing the level. Now, once you're in that first menu, if you go to the mode button, it sequences through what each Omron control is set up for. And you're going to find out there's a slight difference between the hot air or environmental setup and the bean setup, because the bean is the active one that activates and changes or modifies the machine, such as turning off the heat when it reaches the maximum setting. So if you click on the mode button again, you come up with the Fahrenheit or Celsius screen to adjust. Then here's the next one, SL-H, which is the highest temperature this particular probe or thermostat or thermocouple can go to. Then you got the lowest, which is, in this case, we've got it set for 0. The next setting, on off, CNTL, S-HC, STND. This is the next one. And you can go to the manual and find out what all these numbers represent. I'm not going to spend time going through that now. I just want you to see the proper setting. So we're back. So now I'm going to bring you back using the levels button to the PSEL, and we're now going to go through the modes on that, the menu modes. I'm pressing the mode button, UNO, BP5 it looks like, and that's set for 9.6, PRTY, SDWT, and now we're back to that. Now another little feature is if you go back to the actual setting, which you basically just press on the level button for a moment, and then you want to just go directly to the mode button, you're going to get a series of different screens here. I'm just going to show you what they are. This setting right here is if you want to adjust the alarm to go off at a certain temperature. You can adjust the alarm button up or down. So let's say you always wanted to be alerted when it, well, I'm just rolling this real slow, but you always wanted to be alerted when this would be at 400. So you could change it to 400. Oops, wrong button. And then your alarm would go off at 400, so you'd know I better drop the beans. If that's what your sweet spot is for dropping it. I pretty much do everything manually, so I don't even need the alarm. So I'm going to let that go. That's about the only adjustment you might ever make on this. And then to continue through the mode button sequencing, it goes right back now to. So just to go through that again real quick, if you press just the mode button and not the level button first, here's the screens you're going to run into. And that's it. Now we're going to see there's a bit of a difference on the bean temperature one. So let's first go to the levels button, hold it for 3-4 seconds. Okay, we come to that screen. Now we're going to press the mode button and sequence through those menus. It looks pretty much the same so far, but you're going to see a difference here soon. Okay, let's go back. Now let's hit the level button again. Okay, and now we're going to hit the level button one more time. Now we're going to sequence through these menus. Did you see that the settings there? And now let's go back to what we were before. Now what we're going to do is go straight to the mode button like we talked about before. And now let's just sequence through that mode setting to see if you notice any difference. So that's the general settings for the Omrons for the BC. As long as you've set your machine up to that, you should never have any problem. There's actually a button on the inside of Omrons that you can flip to prevent anyone from setting any or changing any of the settings on the Omrons. That may be a control you want if other people have access to your machine, but I generally recommend that only one dedicated person or group have access to the machine and never change the Omrons. Hope that helps.